Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Run Monk Sunday Show. Thank you so much for tuning back in. I apologize for our absence. Okay, well, I guess clearly you can see it's only me on this episode here currently. We apologize for not being here last Sunday. Very busy, very busy. But we are back this Sunday here, and we're going to go on ahead, and because it's just me, we're going to go on ahead and we're going to talk about a couple of the NFL offseason trades that have gone down for the players. A lot of big names getting moved this season. Very fun, very fun. Of course, free agency has gone and passed, and a lot of these trades have really shaking up some things. But all right, let's go on ahead and let's have some fun today. I hope you're doing well. For my WWE fans out there, it's WrestleMania weekend. I'm rocking the SmackDown hat, so that should be fun. Cody Rhodes finished the story. Love Roman Reigns, though. I'll acknowledge him. But let's go on ahead. Let's talk about these trades. Just want to put it out there for my WWE fans, and even if you're not a WWE fan, consider tuning into WrestleMania this weekend, of course, in Philadelphia. Alrighty, so let's start things off here. The Bears and the Pittsburgh Steelers. We touched on this a little bit last Sunday show, where it was me and Levron, who is our fellow Steelers fan, and got his thoughts a little bit on Justin Fields to the Steelers. Of course, they went ahead and they signed Russell Wilson to a 1-year deal for like the vet minimum, and so now you're going and you're bringing in a young rookie quarterback who he's unproven. He is definitely unproven. Got a lot of untapped potential. That is going to be fun to see if Pittsburgh can bring that out of him. Justin Fields is a fun quarterback. We all know how much he loves to run, his mobile ability. But what would be more interesting to see is if the Steelers can really get that arm out of him. It's not his best attribute. Of course, I just mentioned his rushing ability, but Steelers, they're a team who, Tomlin, he went through Ben Roethlisberger, Kenny Pickett, who wasn't really a run-first type of guy, more of an improviser, more of a Russell Wilson. So we'll see how Fields changes the dynamic in Pittsburgh, if he does totally shift the offensive identity of Pittsburgh. I do think it's going to be, it does sound like it's going to be a Fields and Wilson quarterback competition. I feel like that's only fair. I wouldn't just give the reins to Wilson right away because, you want to kind of get that dog out of him. You kind of want him to feel like his job isn't safe. So bringing in this young quarterback, I think is a good idea, especially because you only got Wilson for 1 year. You can play Wilson out, pick up Fields' fifth-year option, and just see what he's got. I definitely expect Fields to take some snaps this year if Wilson starts week 1, just because, again, Steelers, they kind of want to see what they got with him. It kind of reminds me of what, clearly I'm a Niner fan, it reminds me of what Niners did back with Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance, where yes, Jimmy was the starting quarterback, but then we saw some packages with Trey Lance coming in when they wanted to get a little bit more mobile. So I can definitely see that type of aspect coming in. But now the Chicago Bears, they are pretty much in prime position to take Caleb Williams, which I will get into a video talking about the quarterbacks. I've been doing a lot of research on them, and that's going to be a fun video. I'm very excited for that. But yeah, Justin Fields is in Pittsburgh. I'm excited for it. I don't think we're going to really see much out of him, but we will see some snaps. He might even take over. I mean, yeah, if Wilson stinks the bed by week 8, week 9, I could see Fields stepping in and finishing out the season for him. But overall, I think Wilson plays good and hopefully mentors Fields to be the best quarterback he can be. But that'll be fun to watch. Speaking of Steelers, they traded Kenny Pickett to the Philadelphia Eagles. Not going to talk too much about it because it wasn't that big of a deal. The Eagles already have their starting quarterback. Of course, with Jalen Hurts, I think that Kenny Pickett is a good backup. Apparently, it was reported that the trade went down because of how he handled Russell Wilson coming in the room, which I think is super irresponsible for a young quarterback. I think if you were Kenny Pickett, you should have taken it as a great opportunity. You see, it's only a 1-year deal. This is a perfect opportunity for you to learn under Russell Wilson. And improve your game, but instead, whatever. Next up, I guess, oh wow, sticking with the Bears, we have Keenan Allen joining the Chicago Bears. Him and the Chargers, they couldn't agree to a contract restructure. The Chargers released Mike Williams and traded Keenan Allen to the Chicago Bears, who again, like we talked about, in prime position to draft Caleb Williams. And now Keenan Allen and DJ Moore is a nasty 1-2 punch. Very excited for that. Sitting with the first overall pick, I think this is just a great move to make for your young quarterback coming in, because Keenan Allen is such a great separator. He obviously is a great route runner. I'm very excited to see Keenan Allen in the Chicago Bears offense and how he's going to help Caleb Williams and heck, even DJ Moore pop off. A couple of more quarterback news. Sam Howell traded to the Seattle Seahawks. Commanders sitting with the second overall pick, again preparing that team to bring in their quarterback that they're most likely going to draft. And then Desmond Ridder traded to the Arizona Cardinals. Of course, the Falcons, they got Kirk Cousins as their QB1. So Ridder, I don't really get it, I guess. Cardinals, they've got Kyler Murray. I guess that he'll be a solid backup. And then Sam Howell in Seattle. Again, a young guy to come in to fill in for Geno Smith, probably when Geno's done. Geno's, of course, on the older side. The Seattle Seahawks couldn't retain Drew Lock, who went to the Giants. So, going ahead, get another rookie, not a rookie, a younger quarterback. And who knows, maybe he can learn a few things from Geno. I don't really expect him to be Seattle's franchise quarterback, but he will compete, and we might see some fun snaps out of him. Definitely interesting. On to the defensive side of things, probably one of the biggest trades. Brian Burns, bye-bye Carolina. He's going to the New York Giants, who we just mentioned about Drew Lock. Game-changing. That Giants defense is going to be very, very good. Now you've got Brian Burns, you've got Sexy Dexy Lawrence up in the middle, and then who I think benefits the most of this trade, Kayvon Thibodeau on the other side there. Because, of course, most of the attention is going to be on Lawrence. It's going to be on Burns. So Thibodeau has really got a big chance to have a breakout year and show what he's got in these one-on-ones against offensive linemen. So I definitely think he benefits the most out of this. Overall, though, not a big fan of the Giants roster. The offense, lackluster. Who do they have? They have $40+ million contract on Daniel Jones. They lost Saquon Barkley. Who is their receiver one? So a lot of question marks for the New York Giants. Their offensive line has a lot of holes. Evan Neal hasn't been the guy that you really wanted him to be. Andrew Thomas is great, sure. But overall, I think the Giants are going to struggle. And they've got to go through a really fast rebuild. It's going to be tough because, yes, they extended Brian Burns. He's getting like top 3 defensive end money, which I think was a little bit of an overpay. Brian Burns is great and all, but he's not on the level of Myles Garrett. He's not on the level of a Nick Bosa. He's not on the level of a Micah Parsons. He's kind of in that second tier of guys, and I get it that the whole thing was he wanted to get paid, and the Giants were the team willing to give up the contract. And I believe, the Panthers, they held out. They had 2 first-round picks in the trade deadline, middle of the season. And they only got, I believe, like a second-round pick or something. Very little compensation. Yes, Burns is a great defensive end. Yes, he's going to do great with New York. But overall, I think the Giants have a lot more holes. So I don't think this is really a move that's going to make the Giants succeed. But it's a great money move for Burns. So shout out Brian Burns. Going back to the Steelers here. They traded wide receiver Deontay Johnson to the Carolina Panthers, who we just mentioned. And the Panthers traded Dante Jackson to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, very flip-floppy here. Very flip-floppy. Tough to get those names right. Deontay Johnson, the wide receiver, he is going to do great things in Carolina, who is a team that's desperate for that receiver one. Is Johnson exactly a receiver one? Maybe not. Is he a complementary piece? Absolutely. And I can expect Carolina to go on ahead and draft a wide receiver, which I think would work well with Johnson. They had the first pick in the second round. I'm sure there'll be somebody there. And then the Steelers get a so-so cornerback, a playable cornerback. I know he was getting really bashed. I saw a lot of bad stuff on Twitter, like he's not good, this and that. I always liked Dante Jackson's game, and I think that he'll be fine in Pittsburgh. He'll be fine. Maybe you need to bring some youngness in there. I guess they got Joey Porter, and then Patrick Peterson. Actually, he might have been a free agent. So overall, just a solid veteran cornerback. You know, he might get cooked on some plays, but you can feel comfortable with him there. Next up, let's talk about Jerry Jeudy going from the Broncos to the Browns. Very solid move for the Browns, I think. You're pairing Jeudy up with Amari Cooper, who's a very similar receiver in the way that they both have really good route running. The problem with Jeudy is he has suffered with his hands. He has a lot of drops, so to say. But I think working with Amari Cooper, working with Deshaun Watson, Kevin Stefanski, of course, I think that he'll be fine. And I think this is going to be a fun, a great opportunity for Jerry Jeudy for a career resurgence. Obviously in Denver, it seemed like a lot of toxic things going on there, just a really bad environment. So now you're going to the Cleveland Browns, who, okay, maybe they're the laughingstock of the NFL just a little bit, but you got a chance to compete at least. You've got if Deshaun Watson can play back at his Houston Texans form, you'll be pristino. Cleveland Browns acquired Jerry Jeudy. Moving on, let's go Bengals, Texans. Joe Mixon, who was reportedly cut from the Bengals, but before they made it official, the Texans swooped in, traded like a late round pick for Joe Mixon, get some consistency from the running back room because Damian Priest stunk the bed. Devin Singletary doesn't really could put you over the hump. And so now the Texans, who's a team that we're going to be circling back to, make a really big move to get some talent in that running back room, help CJ Stroud a little bit, help Nico Collins, help Tank Dell, and that other receiver who you know who I'm talking about, but I'm saving it. And then some other smaller moves. Carlton Davis to the Detroit Lions. They missed out on L'Jarius Sneed, who we'll get into next, actually. Yeah, so the Lions, they got Carlton Davis, who's, again, a solid cornerback, not bad in any sort of the way. I'm actually quite a fan of Carlton Davis, and I think that he's going to be a solid addition to the Detroit Lions secondary that desperately needed some help. But that doesn't change the fact that they missed out on L'Jarius Sneed, who gets traded to the Tennessee Titans. The Titans have been making moves this offseason. They signed Tony Pollard. They signed Calvin Ridley. They signed Kenneth Murray. They've just a bunch of other pieces. They lost Aziz Al-Shire, but they recouped. They lost Derrick Henry, but again, they recouped. It's going to be a fun team to watch to see how Will Levis develops. But yeah, L'Jarius Sneed to the Titans. I think that is a very, very good pickup. Obviously, L'Jarius Sneed is a top-tier cornerback. Didn't have to give up too much for him. Didn't have to pay him top dollar, really. It was a really solid contract. So I'm definitely a big fan of this move. I would have liked to see him go to a contending team like the Lions. Mostly just like the Lions, really. I'm a Niner fan, so it kind of is tough to say that. I wouldn't have expected the Chiefs to trade him to a contending AFC team, which I guess it kind of shows how the Chiefs view the Titans. But yeah, very solid move. And yeah, make the reigning Super Bowl champions a little bit weaker. I'm happy about it. All right, now let me get a drum roll, my own drum roll here. The two biggest moves, I think, at least, maybe not the. I think they're the biggest, the most exciting moves. What else is big? Brian Burns was pretty big. Maybe Keenan Allen. Obviously, he's a little bit older. Whatever. Let's just get into the moves. Hassan Reddick traded from the Philadelphia Eagles to the New York Jets, who was just bang. They are reloading again. Obviously, Rodgers coming back from the torn Achilles, and the Jets, they are not playing around this season. They acquire Hassan Reddick, who is a notable, very, very good, very talented edge rusher, getting a little bit older, wanted a new contract with Philly. Philly didn't want to cough up the money. Boom. Trade him, send him off. I believe it's a next year third-round pick that could turn into a second-round pick if he plays 60% of snaps or something like that. If I'm a Philly fan, I'm a little bit upset because Reddick just fit the Philly culture so well. He really bought into what being the villain was all about. His whole celebration, thumbs down, doing this, doing that. and he really bought the juice off the edge. I mean, you watch him, and he really was the heartbeat of that pass rush. And now you're relying on a young Nolan Smith who didn't get much playing time. You're relying on a free agent Bryce Huff who didn't play many snaps with the Jets. You're relying on old Brandon Graham. You're relying on Jalen Carter. You're relying on Jordan Davis. So a lot of these young guys the Philadelphia Eagles are relying on to bring the heat. It's going to be interesting to see if they are able to. Yeah. Oh, they also got Sweat still, Montez Sweat. Or is it Montez Sweat? I believe it's a different Sweat that I'm thinking of. Montez Sweat is on the Bears. But yeah, overall, just that Philly pass rush is going to take a hit, which is kind of crazy because I feel like that's always been the identity of the Eagles. They've always been all about that front seven. And now it seems like that's probably the weakest part of their team. Their secondary is pretty bad too, though. So, gotta say, Philly did not get better this offseason. I will say that. Yes, they got Bryce Huff. Yes, they got Saquon. Offense was fine. The offense was just fine. Those are defense that was the question marks. Losing Hassan Reddick is going to be big, especially with the already retired Fletcher Cox. So now, yeah, just really leaning on Brandon Graham to bring the veteran energy for these young guys. And lastly, of course, I hinted at it, Stephon Diggs traded to the Houston Texans. CJ Stroud is in. If he doesn't have a sophomore slump, he is in for a historical season. He could be. Okay, so Stephon Diggs now added to this already stacked offense of Nico Collins, of Tank Dell, CJ Stroud, Joe Mixon, Dalton Schultz, a solid offensive line. I mean, what don't the Texans have? Defensively, you've got Derek Stingley. I believe they still have Jeff Okudah, who's young, maybe kind of past that potential range. The defensive line is very solid, of course, led the way with Will Anderson. And don't forget Danielle Hunter, who they added in free agency. I mean, oh my goodness. The Texans are going to be such a fun team to watch. I'm super excited to watch the Texans. And I really expect them to just dominate their division and really compete in that AFC. They're going to be the team to compete with the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to see Stroud with them going head to head with Patrick Mahomes. And it's really cool because, you know, the moment that these kind of bottom of the barrel teams start being good, everybody's on their side. Everybody's rooting for the Texans going into next year. CJ Stroud has got a lot of pressure on his shoulders for sure, especially with how great of a rookie season he had. Got to be able to be better. And with this supporting cast, though, what DeMeco Ryans has put together in Houston, it's going to be special. It's going to be fireworks. And I really hope that Diggs isn't too much of a drama queen and gets in Stroud's head. Because, you know, that Texans team is all vibes. It's all vibes, all about having fun. And yeah, I know a lot of teams are going to model their rebuild after the Texans. And it's literally just finding that right quarterback and then making that aggressive move to get Will Anderson. They had two guys probably at the top of their board with that second overall pick. And they said, you know what? We have the capital. We're going to go all in. We're going to get both of those guys. Call up Arizona. So you've got to applaud it. What was this? A 1-year rebuild with DeMeco Ryans? Super impressive stuff there in Houston. All right, brother. So that is going to wrap up this episode here. I know there were some trades that I didn't really get to. I just didn't really think they were that important. But I guess I can cover them real quick. Morgan Moses traded from the Ravens to the Jets, beef up that O-line. Malik Collins traded from the Texans to the 49ers. Of course, the Niners needed some interior defensive lineman help. And from everything I've seen, Collins is a very, very solid piece. Mac Jones traded from the Patriots to the Jaguars to back up Trevor Lawrence. Whatever. We don't care. Ryan Bates traded to the Chicago Bears. Rondale Moore traded from the Cardinals to the Atlanta Falcons. And yeah. So, of course, that's going to be just about it, folks. So, a little bit of a shorter Sunday show for you guys. Of course, the NFL offseason is super long, so make sure you stay subscribed for all these fun videos that we're going to be coming out with. This was just about the trades going on. Of course, we've got draft content coming out soon. Next video, which I'm probably going to actually record after this, I'll probably be in the same attire. We're talking about the quarterbacks. We're going to talk about the draft quarterbacks. we're going to have more mock drafts coming your way. We're going to finish up the mock draft that we started on the Sunday show a week ago. And yeah, going to be a lot of fun stuff. So I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, Javen Takar. Like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. I want to hear what you've got to say. Make sure you check out the description below where I've got all the other social medias where you can find me. And yes, this was a fun episode. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Peace out.